Why are certain herbs, like why is rosemary a name but not cumin? Why basil but not coriander?
This is my son, Time.
What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 34-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I read them as an adult because I was on a quest to determine if society had been sleeping on the series. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series. And I'm never on this quest alone. I am joined today by a very special guest and in a very special situation because we are in person, but not in the normal situation where when I have someone recording at my place, we both go into our larger closet, but that's where the baby is napping right now. So instead, I am in the shubia with the door open. Our guest is at a rolling standing desk nearby, just mere feet away. We could reach out and touch hands like SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs at the Plankton Chum Bucket episode. It's our very special guest for this episode, friend of the pod, friend of me, maybe friend of you too, depending on who's listening. It's Michael Hollis. Michael, how's it going?
Hello. It's good. It's a pleasure to be here. I did offer to squeeze into the tiny shubia with you, but apparently that would not be good for the audio.
I think it would be bad for the audio. I think it would be bad for our sweat glands. It's a tight enough fit for just my chair. I have to move the chair out of the way to open the door. The closet truly is a closet. You could call it a walk-in closet. I would call it a step-in closet.
Yes, there's two steps.
There's not much walking to be done. It depends on what your definition of walking is. But I'm very excited. You are in town. We're having a fun time here in New York City. And part of the fun is doing these chapters, which you called dibs on many moons ago. And now, having read them, I see why. How fitting. How fun and fitting. At first, when you called dibs, I was like, oh, these are probably some really sad, depressing chapters, aren't they? Classic Michael Hollis. But no, they do
have a brand.
They have lined up well. The branding is strong. There were a lot of people who requested you to be the guest for the Nico reveal. Do you have any Nico reveal thoughts? Just to kind of give the people what they want.
It is very funny, but I have to imagine that you have much more Tumblr core involved guests that could speak to how this may have shaken the fandom that I was ignorant of at the time.
Yeah, did you read it when it was coming out, or were you after the fact?
This series, no. I read it basically like right after we recorded my episode of Battle of the Labyrinth.
Okay.
I just kept going and read this whole series. So yeah, as an adult.
You missed the Tumblr of it all, but...
Right, the community aspect of,
Well, that's okay. Non-big picture thoughts. You individually, did you enjoy how it was done? I know we talked briefly and you said you were not surprised by the reveal.
Yes, I think it probably also had been spoiled to me by then. I mean, I wasn't near as careful as you have been about trying to avoid spoilers, but yeah, there's just a general vibe on like mentions of Nico in Twitter at the time and whatnot. So, but I enjoyed how it was done, and I thought that it was a good kind of an example of Jason being kind of a dumb straight ally that's just doing his best.
But he comes around.
Yeah, that's there are worse
as resident.
There are worse people to have on your side than the himbo All-American.
He gets there, and you know what? It's all about getting there and having patience. So anyway, we're going to be covering chapters 49, 50, and a little bit of 51, which are all Leo chapters, and I'm very excited to get into them. Where we last left our heroes, we had just done the Percy symbiote Spider-Man almost choking out misery stuff, but when we last left the other side of the A plot, B plot, we had Leo getting just yeeted off of the deck of the Argo 2. Quick, what's a movie sequel?
I feel like you've done a lot
I've done so many that it's really hard. The Argo 2...
Simba's Pride.
Oh, I don't know if I've done that one.
Yeah.
That's great. So yes, he got yeeted off by Keone, and now we get to see where he is. So we begin chapter 49 with, quote, "The way Leo figured it, he spent more time crashing than he did flying." And look, I know Leo is often very hard on himself and self-deprecating, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong with this self-deprecation. It does feel like the Argo 2 is problematic in terms of when it tries to get airborne.
Yeah, it does seem like it was put together with ADHD and duct tape at times.
And you have ADHD, right? So you're allowed to make this joke.
Yes. Yes, I do.
He's doing his best, but unfortunately, it does have some times where it doesn't work exactly as designed. But Leo thinks that he would earn double platinum rewards member status if there was a frequent crashers club, which I think is pretty funny. He has a vague memory of Keone taunting him before yeeting him off of the deck, but he didn't get a good look at her. He could just hear her unmistakable voice and know that it's her. He can't tell how long that he shot upward when he got thrust into the sky because he passed out during this whole endeavor, but he does know as he has come back to reality, there's lots of gravity. He is shooting downward very quickly. He is very far away from the ocean below, but he can tell I'm moving quite quickly. I'm assuming a terminal velocity. And if I don't figure out what I'm going to do, soon, I'm going to hit the ground and this is not going to be good for your boy, Leo.
Well, thank good for our overpowered little Archimedes sphere.
Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts on the sphere? I personally think it's not
definitely
fun.
A plot device that makes it way too easy for Leo to get out of these. But I'm glad he doesn't die.
Sure.
In this situation.
Sure.
So
yeah. I just think he already has plot device tool belt. Does he need plot device sphere?
Supercomputer, I guess.
Whatever it is. Like, I just don't know how many. And also his hands, since he can just touch anything metal and be like, do what I want you to do. It just feels like he has a lot of plot device powers, and it's not the most fun, given that he can also just shoot fire, which is cool enough. But anyway, he can't see the ship. He can see the sea far below. He's got his Archimedes sphere, so he gets to tinkering with items from his tool belt, and he crafts together a personal helicopter just in time before hitting the water. Now, this whole thing is described over the course of like a full page in the book, but I found it to be not super compelling in terms of
really?
Recapping. So
as someone trained in mechanical engineering, do you have comments on this feat of improvisational construction?
Look, I do love improv, and I was an engineer, but I think the problem I have with it, and maybe why I'm not interested, is that it's so fake and pretend, and it so could not happen at all, that I just wanted to breeze past it because I knew he's going to be okay. So I think there's also no suspense in there as well. And I don't know, I did, to give me even more nerd points, I was on the rocketry team in high school. So we did the thing where you shoot little model rockets up and they have all the little different stipulations for that year's competition of what you got to do. So I understand what goes into making something land gracefully. And even the year that we did it, the rocket had to come down not with a parachute, but with I don't remember the technical term, but it's when you basically have a ribbon kind of go out and it spirals in the sky and it gradually makes it fall. So I've done things with less than ideal parachuting systems before, and I just don't think this would work, especially in particular with a helicopter. I'm not well versed in helicopters. I've never ridden in a helicopter, and I never will because of cost benefit analysis. Just not a fan of tiny aircrafts. I just feel like helicopters need to start from a stationary, calm place to actually have the torque and the upward force you need to get you off the ground. And I just don't know if that last minute as you're hurtling towards the earth at terminal velocity would work. So,
you know, there are books, like I read Project Hail Mary recently, which is like pretty much the movie follows it, except there's a lot more detail about like the science involved because I think the writer was an engineer or something.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, there's that like genre of sci-fi where they like do their best to explain the science, and this is not in that genre.
Not at all.
Uncle Rick just treats this as like a different form of magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just engineer magic.
Yes.
What's funny is people have suggested Project Hail Mary to me because it's the same guy who wrote The Martian, which I really liked.
Yes.
And it's funny because the movie came out and I was asking people, should I read the book or should I watch the movie? And a lot of people have told me, oh, you should watch the movie. It gets rid of a lot of the boring science stuff. And I was like, I think I should read the book because
accurate.
I would love the boring science stuff. I would find it fascinating. But that's just me. See, Mom, I'm using my degree. Look at me go. So anyway. anyway. The one part of it that I did think was really funny is that Leo says he was afraid that he was going to become a demigod joke forever. What was the last thing to go through Leo's mind? The Mediterranean, which is pretty fun. Not long after, avoiding this big kersplat, the sphere overheats and explodes, so he can't use this personal helicopter anymore. And Leo notes that this blast probably saved his life because it shot him off course into some sand while the rest of his equipment bursted too quickly onto the shore and broke and made this big crash. Leo comes to and he realizes that he is without a sphere. He's sad about that. He hopes that it's not broken and he doesn't want its final contribution to be just a 30-second mini copter ride. He walks around this gorgeous island that he finds himself on and he's wondering, why aren't there any tourists here? This place is gorgeous. What's going on? Feels like this should be littered with people.
Now, at this point, have we been to any islands since Battle of the Labyrinth? Did it occur to you of what this island might be?
I put it together quite quickly, but we have been to, I believe, Narcissus. Wasn't he on an island when Leo and Hazel went there?
Yeah, was that in Utah?
I think it was in Utah.
Yeah, like in the Salt Lake
Like it's like
Sea
on the
area.
Great Salted Lake. Like maybe it wasn't an island, maybe it was just on the coast of Great Salt Lake or something in that ballpark. But I will say in my notes, here's exactly what I put. Leo walks around the gorgeous island he finds himself on, wondering why there aren't any tourists. And then I literally wrote in the next line, oh no, is this some Calypso crap again?
Indeed.
Not knowing if it was the exact thing or a similar situation, but just the fact that he was like, this is an absolutely gorgeous island and I can't see anyone or anything.
Yes.
Then I was thinking, okay, especially given that he got yeeted all over the place. And Keone said, I'm going to put Leo in a place from which he cannot return. This felt similar to Percy's explosion shot up into the sky, yada, yada, yada.
And indeed, we have God's least favorite princess returning to us.
Leo is able to find the sphere and the copter, and he sees that it crashed against a bunch of things that look like furniture and plates and cutlery. He retrieves the sphere, and then he wonders how he will determine where he is and how he gets back to his team. And then he hears a girl's voice ask what he's doing as he wrecked her dining table. And Leo's worried because of all the goddesses that he's met, this one looks most like a goddess, and that's just jarring for him. Quote, she wore a sleeveless white Greek-style dress with a gold braided belt. Her hair was long, straight, and golden brown, almost the same cinnamon toast color as Hazel's, but the similarity to Hazel ended there. The girl's face was milky pale, with dark almond-shaped eyes and pouty lips. She looked maybe 15, about Leo's age, and sure, she was pretty, but with that angry expression on her face, she reminded Leo of every popular girl in every school he'd ever attended. The ones who made fun of him gossiped a lot, thought they were so superior, and basically did everything they could to make his life miserable. And then I wrote Calypso ? So did not take long, especially given that she was just talked about a couple of chapters ago with the Percy Cursey situation. I guess technically Annabeth is the one who's cursed with the Calypso curse, but yeah, she was on the brain. This fit the bill. I knew it was up. It even took me longer. It wasn't just like, oh, this is why Michael called dibs. It wasn't until I had kind of really done this chapter to be like, oh, right. Yeah. That's why he wanted these. Leo has this bad instinctual feeling inside, and he does this sassy fake apology for the damage done to the table, and then he effectively just yells at her, and then she wonders aloud if the gods have made her curse worse, and once she says curse, then you know for sure it's Calypso. It takes a long time before they actually call her Calypso explicitly, but from this point on, I just kept referring to her as Calypso in my notes for simplicity. This girl goes, quote, show yourself. It's not bad enough I am exiled. It's not bad enough that you take away the few good heroes I'm allowed to meet. You think it's funny to send me this charbroiled runt of a boy to ruin my tranquility? This is not funny. In all caps, take him back.
That line specifically is essentially why I wanted to return for this sequel to my first appearance. When I read this, was just instantly fascinated and delighted by how different this is than the first time we met Calypso. Mm-hmm. That her first, when Percy showed up, was very mythological. It was, woe is me, this curse that I've accepted over thousands of years. I'm this fairy tale princess waiting to be saved. That she is very much leaning into the genre. And then this one is Leo crashing through the glass ceiling of her genre, and she's had enough. That after all of these thousands of years and being told that Percy was going to make them set her free. And then what is this, 2-3 years later? 6 months? I don't know. What is time in this series?
I think she says it's been like a year.
Yeah.
Or it's been a year since Percy made the promise. So I guess like a little over a year, because there's not a lot of time jump between books 4 and 5. So I don't know, a year and a half, something in that ballpark.
Yeah. So just her attitude of, I'm sick of this. Like, it almost feels like a different character when we first meet her, because Calypso 1 was, very sweet and magical and this mythological goddess. And then now we're seeing like the real side of her anger at the situation, like boiling over.
Yeah, I think it also makes sense given the timeline, because as we will go on here, she says that the last one before Percy was Sir Francis Drake, and that's 1600s or something. So in theory, we've got 400-ish years between people.
Yeah, maybe
and
she's
then it's 1 year and change.
She's used to having hundreds of years for her broken heart to be restored and whatnot. But this was just like a 1-2 of not the person that she was expecting.
Right. And I don't know a lot about Sir Francis Drake, aside from what I've learned from the Uncharted video games, which is still not much about Sir Francis Drake as a person, as a partner, as a lover. But I feel like Percy was probably a really good fit. Like she probably liked being with Percy. So I think that has the extra sting. And when I was first reading it, it made me wonder if this was some sort of intentional decision by Rick to make us like Calypso a little less, so that we're more on board with Persebeth or something like that. And then I was thinking, no, it's probably not it. Maybe it's just a way for us to understand why the curse would happen, why she would have the thing where she would throw that curse at Annabeth, because at first I think the instinct is, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel like Calypso. But now thinking of it more, especially hearing you talk about this a little bit, I think it just kind of makes her feel more human, even though she's immortal. Hey, it's Mike from the future here. That buzzing you heard was not your headphones. It was not your speaker. It was not your brain. That is an error that my now backup audio interface has been having. I switched to a different one because of it. When we started recording, my baby was napping in the room where I had my primary one. I didn't realize I had left it in that room, so I had to use the backup one. Sherry and I did our best to reduce the sound, but if you hear some buzzing, that's what it is. My apologies. Anyway, back to the podcast. But like it makes her feel more complex and believable as a character, because how could you go through her situation and not be super upset?
Right.
I think it's a really good characterization. I don't think it's necessarily making her look worse. I think it's making her more believable,
substantial,
more real. Yeah, more relatable, because it would suck. It would suck to be in the situation she's in, and then also specifically the way in which she views this situation, which I think is a little harsh towards Leo. I can understand her anger here as well. Like, yeah, this curse sucks.
Sure. She does not hold back on directing all of her rage against this poor little boy.
No, and it's funny. It's like, this curse sucks, but at least these hot dudes come every now and then. But if you're not even going to give me a hot dude, what's the point of this curse? So Leo says that he can hear her smack talking him because her monologuing here was to the gods who have punished her. But she doesn't care, and she instructs him to join her so that she can remove him from the island, and Leo sassily agrees to this offer. He doesn't get why she's so mad, but he doesn't really care. He just wants off of this place, and if she can help, cool. Great, let's do it. Narrator Leo says, quote, she snarled and kept walking along the edge of the water. Leo caught a whiff of cinnamon. Maybe her perfume? Not that he cared. Her hair swayed down her back in a mesmerizing kind of way, which of course he didn't care about either.
Right.
Great. Leo, no matter what, at his core, teenage boy who can't help but go awooga over pretty girls.
He's really selling how much he dislikes her.
Leo scans the rest of the island and he sees nothing across the horizon. On the land, he sees tree-dotted hills and a footpath that leads through the trees. He is so fixated on this pathway that he sees that he doesn't notice that this girl, Calypso, stops walking, so he bumps into her. And she has to grab his arm in order to keep her balance. And Leo notices that she has really strong hands, like a Cabin 9 camper, but she doesn't look like a child of Hephaestus at all. She tells him that this spot will suffice for him to tell her that he wants to leave. He's obviously confused. She checks that he does want to leave because he has somewhere important to be, and Leo hesitates but agrees. And then Calypso sharply goes, fine, just say I want to leave Ogygia. And then that's our first 100% confirmation that this is Calypso. And Leo agrees to say it, but he doesn't really like her tone. It hurts his feelings, even though he's telling himself he doesn't care what she thinks. He says that he wants to leave, quote, whatever you said, and then she sounds it out for him, O-G-G, and Leo repeats it with the proper name. She says that soon a magical raft will appear, and it'll take him wherever he wants to go. Leo asks, "Who are you?" And she starts to answer, but then stops herself, instead saying that it doesn't matter because him being here is clearly a mistake. Leo's hurt again because so many people have identified him as a mistake. He doesn't like hearing this said about him, and he doesn't want a goddess piling on to all of the mortals and demigods in his life that have told him he's a mistake.
It's like literally Leo's kryptonite of somebody pointing out his inner thoughts to him directly.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because this happened right a couple of chapters ago with Piper. Keone kind of clued into her insecurities. So we have a lot of people confronting their inner sleep paralysis demons that yell the thing you don't want to hear.
Right.
So narrator Leo then says, quote, "He remembered a Greek legend about a girl on an island. Maybe one of his friends had mentioned it. It didn't matter as long as she let him leave. Some time passes and the raft doesn't appear. Leo wonders if it got stuck in traffic. Calypso says that this is all wrong. This isn't how it's supposed to work. Leo asks, all right, what's plan B? And he checks to see if she has a phone. And then she rages and runs down the footpath into the trees. And then Leo goes, okay, or you could just run away.
Right.
Which I love. The sassy boy that I am, love to do that, where if, I'm doing something and like if this situation happened, that's something I would say. This is a thing that I will sometimes mutter under my breath. If I'm in a conversation with someone who keeps interrupting me, when it's a conversation where like I'm trying to share information or answer a question or something, and someone keeps butting in.
Help you.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll just stop.
Right.
Because like, what is the point of trying to get information out of me if you're going to keep interjecting? Am I not supposed to be helping you here? I can just shut up. So sometimes I'll say, oh, okay, or I can just, I'll say it quiet enough, but usually not quiet enough where the person does hear.
Right.
Because I'm a sassy boy and I can't help myself. Leo then takes tools out of his tool belt to fasten the sphere to his belt, and he looks out into the water. He sees no raft. He doesn't want to just wait here because he's hungry, he's tired, and he's thirsty, but he also doesn't really want to follow Calypso, so he is torn. Now, the book ends chapter 49 with the following, quote, "On the other hand, he had no place else to go. The girl had a dining table, so she probably had food, and she seemed to find Leo's presence annoying. Annoying her is a plus, he decided. He followed her into the hills." So I've retitled chapter 49, "I Crash a Dinner." What have you retitled chapter 49?
Similar, I said, I make a bad first impression.
Love it. Let's continue on with chapter 50, which is also called Leo, but we will retitle it. Now, I had a fun experience with my very legal PDF here because the way it's broken down on the PDF, each page that has the title of it is its own page of the PDF. So it, in this case, would have L for the Roman numeral of 50 and then say Leo. But when I was scrolling from 49 to 50, that page didn't exist in my very legal PDF. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this a really funny joke from Rick that the chapter is Leo with an L, so we don't have the separate page in the book that has L, Leo? And then I looked in my hardcover physical copy of the book, which I do have and I always have, and that's why I feel justified in having the very legal PDFs. I've purchased it with real money. I looked and there is a page for it. So no joke, but props to you, very legal PDF, for making me think that Rick had a cool joke in there. So chapter 50, it's Leo. It opens with, quote, "Holy Hephaestus," Leo said. The path opened into the nicest garden Leo had ever seen. Not that he had spent a lot of time in gardens, but dang. And is Leo afraid of the implications that spending a lot of times in gardens would mean he's gay? Like, is he being that teenage boy of like, oh, no,
just the instinct that like flowers are girly.
Sure. Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was that or if he was just like matter of fact, just saying like, I don't spend a lot of time in gardens. This is the thing where like I would need the tone. Is it like, not that I spend a lot of time in gardens, or not that I spend a lot of time in gardens?
Right. Yeah.
So there is an orchard and a vineyard on the left with peach trees and grapes on vines and gorgeous plants. And then there's vegetable plants and herbs to the right, which seems ideal. My dream, if I ever do have a house with a yard and stuff, I want a functional front yard with just plants that do vegetables, herbs, fruit trees. Like that would be the best. So I love this sort of vibe.
I did go back to my notes of the first episode of when we first were on OJGA, and there were two quotes that popped out as relevant, especially to Leo. One was, You deal with mythological stuff for a few years, and you learn that paradises are usually places where you get killed. And the other was, I think Percy asked like what the plant did, and Calypso was like, it doesn't do anything. It lives, it gives light, it's beauty. Like, does it have to do something?
Yeah.
And I feel like Leo especially is going to struggle with that like function versus beauty debate, where he just like needs things to make sense and work.
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of a journey that I went through, because definitely I remember being a teenage boy and not understanding when people get plants, just, you know, they sell fully bloomed flowers at the grocery store, the bodega. Why wouldn't you just get that if you wanted flowers? Why?
Making it grow, yeah.
Yeah. And then when I was an engineer, I forget what it was for, maybe some sort of environmental thing, because the company I work for tried to do a lot of environmentally friendly engineering practices, and they gave away plants. And you just like got a plant in the soil. They told you the sun and everything like that. And I remember putting it on my windowsill at my apartment in Houston and just like wanting it to thrive and do well. And it was a full sun plant, but my windowsill was under an awning, so it was never like as healthy as it wanted to be. And I would always water it the right amount of times. And then I remember one time I went out of town for a work trip for like a week, and I told my roommate, please water, and he forgot to water it. And I came back and it was like dead, and I was crushed, but then I kept watering it and it slowly worked its way back to life. I'm pretty sure I named the plant Bob, because I was big on naming things simple names. I don't know if we had talked about this, but there was, I won't put her on blast because she's a nice person, but there was a girl at Rice where we went to school who had a ukulele that she named Snapdragon. And I remember in that moment deciding, if I ever get things that I name, I'm going to give them really boring names, because that's more fun than trying to give this like big whimsical name. So when I got my first car, my dad's old Nissan that had 150,000 miles on it, I named it Steve. And then with this first plant, I named it Bob. And I was really crushed when Bob wasn't doing well, watered him back, and he did well. And then when I moved out of that apartment in Houston, before I moved to the Bay Area, I gave the plant to my parents because they have like a proper yard, and they planted it in their backyard and they put it in a full sun location. And I came back for Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, and Bob was enormous and like it's grown all over. And it was just like, I don't know the type of flower, but it was just like,
you were the problem with Bob.
I knew I was the problem because I couldn't give him full sun in my apartment. But it was so cool. I came back and he's this bright pink flower, and there was all these flowers everywhere, and he would spread. And I was like, oh my gosh, Bob, you're doing great. Like, oh, it made me really happy. So long way to say, I now appreciate the just having a plant be pretty for pretty's sake.
Yeah.
And definitely as a teenage boy was like, grumble, grumble, scoff, scoff. Why would you do this? Why would anyone do this? Why wouldn't you just get a fake plant that can't die? So anyway, Percy Jackson, there's a big hill in the back, and there's fancy columns within, and Leo smells a variety of incredible aromas, and he decides to approach the entrance, and he sees Calypso tending to the veggies. He approaches her in a way that she can definitely see him. She had a little shovel that she was scooping with, so he didn't want her to get scared and attack him with it. So does this in a way where you can definitely see him. And this is something I certainly try to do. The situations that come up sometimes where you're like trying to get someone's attention, but you're like, I would love for you to see me as I approach.
And not get startled. Yeah.
Especially I'm trying to be conscious of this as a tall man. Like,
fair.
Like, how do I exude, I am not a problem to you, but I do want to get your attention?
Yes.
This happened to me once. It was Easter Sunday, and there was a woman dressed up, and she had like one of those Easter bunny headband things, and it fell off of her head, and I was behind her on the sidewalk, but she was pretty far up. So I had to like run to catch up with her. So the whole time I was like, how do I run, because I want to catch up to her, but how do I make this like not look scary?
Right. Like run in an arc around to
yeah, I just kept being like, miss, excuse me, miss. We eventually got it to work, but the whole time I was like,
I'm not a man, I'm just a little guy.
I'm just a little boy. I'm just a nice boy. I have a daughter, I promise. I'm cool. So Calypso is furiously gardening. She is muttering curses under her breath, and she's doing this gardening so intensely that she's getting dirt on herself and on her white dress, which Leo thinks is a good look for her.
Yeah, I had this question of the line of she looked less like a beauty queen and more like an actual get your hands dirty person. And is that a comment on what Leo actually finds more attractive, or what he finds more in his league?
Oh, interesting. Given Leo and teenage boys in general, I'm going to say finds attractive, because I'm not sure that he has a grasp of the league yet, given that he had a big crush on Keone, the goddess of ice.
Okay, fair. He is not immune to crushing on people that he's aware of.
Yeah.
Or,
So I think it's just him liking more of a down and dirty, adding more to the list of girls that aren't like other girls in the Percy Jackson universe. And as I've said on the pod, I want a girl who is like other girls.
Yeah.
I want a girl who loves makeup and wants to make sure her outfit looks good and does her hair and is very intentional about that. And then also is a nice person and a cool hero that we like. Give me a girl who is like other girls.
And that is partially, I think, what Leo is kind of here to learn. I mean, with the like seeing how rough her hands are in the mud, and that like there's hard work that goes into feminine things.
True. Yeah.
That, you know, things that we take for granted of like, oh, well, she's just like a natural beauty or whatever. It's you just like flowers. Well, there's a lot of work that goes behind that.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever did this for the 80s party at Rice, but do you remember when we were living together senior year, I had some of the girls from Hansen do like eyeliner on my eyes and stuff. It was like, maybe it wasn't senior year, maybe it was junior year, because I feel like Tremaine, our friend, did it as well. And I just remember it was so hard to get the makeup off at the end of the night. And I was like, you folks do this
every day?
Every day?
Yeah.
It was such a process. And then of course it like still lingered. It was on there for like a couple days after. It was just like so much respect. And I had one thing, like it was eyeliner and nothing else. It's like, my good, so much effort. Then everything that goes into hair. Oh my God. Like I at least understand that with like the chaos that I do to my hair to make it work. But yeah, when people think that it's, just this like frilly thing, like that stuff takes work. Proper makeup contouring takes work. Nail polish and everything takes work. Lipstick takes work. Hair dyeing and everything and getting it colored and layered and all like highlights. It's so much work. It needs to be respected. Compliment your friends who put in effort into their looks and stuff, because they've put in the work, baby. But anyway, Percy Jackson. So Leo goes up to Calypso and says that he thinks she's punished that dirt enough. She tells him to go away. He says that she is crying, which is obvious, but as the narrator lets us know that he just can't stay mad at someone who is crying. She says it's none of his business and the island is big, so he should just find some other place to post up away from her. Leo checks that this means no magic raft is in their horizon and there's no other way off the island, and Calypso confirms. He asks, does this mean that I'm just supposed to wait here until I die? And Calypso says, yeah, that would be fine. But then she yells to Zeus that she guesses Leo can't die here. And Leo is very confused by that. As the narrator, he goes, quote, he couldn't quite translate what this girl was saying. Like when he heard Spaniards or South Americans speaking Spanish. Yeah, he could understand it sort of, but it sounded so different that it was almost another language. I know this is a thing as a non-Spanish speaker because I took Latin in high school. I don't know if this like 100% is true. I would have to check with someone else, but I know there at least is significant differences between Spanish, and Mexican Spanish.
Yeah, I didn't quite follow what was being implied here. Was she actually speaking like in ancient Greek and he could vaguely understand it?
I don't think so.
Or was it more like she was cursing the gods in like some magical language that was like...
I think it's just the things she's describing make such little sense to him that his brain is going, I know this is English, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Like if I were to watch a medical drama show and then they talked about all the different medicines and technical terms and diseases and it just sounds like jargon. Or when I watch any legal thing and they're like lawyer. Like, I don't know what all these
it could
words
just be
are.
Like, I'm here trying to have a conversation with her about what we're going to do. And she is more interested in discussing it with the clouds than with me.
Mm-hmm. And also I just asked, am I going to die here? And she said, yeah. And then immediately was like, oh, well, I bet he can't die here. Like, What do you mean I can't die? Like, how have I, a mortal, become immortal? What are you talking about? So I think it could be in that realm. Now, he tells Calypso that he needs more information here. Sure, she doesn't want him here and he doesn't want to be here either, but he also doesn't want to die here. There's got to be a way to get off, as every problem has a fix. And she says, ugh, you haven't lived long enough if you still believe that. Leo's confused because she looks his age, but clearly she's got to be much older. He asks about the curse, and she says that she cannot leave Ogygia as punishment for her supporting her father, Atlas, in his quest against the Olympians. She says that she was imprisoned here, but about a year ago, the gods pledged to give amnesty to their enemies, allegedly thanks to Percy. And then Leo is very surprised that she knows his good friend Percy Jackson, and then she sheds a single tear. The book has this following exchange. "Oh," Leo thought, "Percy came here," he said. She dug her fingers into the soil. I thought I would be released. I dared to hope, but I am still here." And Leo then remembers, okay, yeah, this was something, it was supposed to be a secret, meaning, oh, of course, it's spread through camp like wildfire, but everybody knows what happened with Percy here in Calypso. So what does Leo do with this brain blast moment? He says, quote, "You're that lady, the one who was named after Caribbean music."
Oof.
I guess it's one step better than, "You're that lady that's named after that bright blue drink they sell in bodegas."
Right. Yeah.
What is very funny, though, is he guesses reggae, meringue, and finally lands on Calypso. Meringue is a great thing that could be a name but isn't actually a name, like, oh, meet my daughter Meringue. I feel this way about heliotrope as a color. It could be, oh, meet my daughter heliotrope. Like,
that's a choice.
That one's an intense one. But there's one of my friends, Gabe, has this ever-growing list on a notes app on his phone of things that aren't names that could be names. Could be. Sure. Like tapioca,
yeah,
or chlamydia.
Yes, that's the classic
that's
one.
The classic.
Sounds like it should be.
Should 1,000% be a name. But I think specifically with herbs and stuff, why are certain herbs, like why is rosemary a name but not cumin? Like, right. Why basil but not coriander? Like, where have we drawn the line?
This is my
here?
Son, time.
Ooh. Like a clock? That's the answer to that one, I think. So Meringue, which would be a great name. He lands on Calypso. He says, "Percy said that you are awesome, sweet, and helpful, not, and then she stands up and goes, yes?
Yeah, you are not the character from the story that I was told."
And Leo goes, nothing. And she replies, quote, "Would you be sweet if the gods forgot their promise to let you go? Would you be sweet if they laughed at you by sending another hero, but a hero who looked like you?" And at first, when she said that, I was like, oh, did they send someone that looked like Calypso? And then it was weird because she had
someone that looks like
you're dating yourself.
Like yourself.
And then narrator Leo gets upset. And I was like, oh, she was making fun
She's
of.
An insult, yeah. So charitable read is that it's not directly about Leo's attractiveness, that it's like his bearing and his like clothes and accessories are all like, yeah, he looks like a mechanic.
He's all burnt. His clothes smell
he's just
bad.
Like not the picture of the hero that she's used to.
That is a generous read.
I think it's a little too generous. That it's maybe more fitting that Calypso is like as superficial as Leo can be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, are they perfect for each other? Oh, man. So then Leo asks, is that a trick question? And Calypso says, "De immortales," which means it's a curse because it's Greek. So then she runs into her cave. Leo chases after. And the narrator Leo says, quote, "When he got inside, he lost his train of thought. The walls were made from multicolored chunks of crystal. White curtains divided the cave into different rooms with comfy pillows and woven rugs and platters of fresh fruit. He spotted a harp in one corner, a loom in another, and a big cooking pot where the stew was bubbling, filling the cavern with luscious smells." So a very wonderful description. And the crystals in particular is something I took note of when there's something later where we hear talk of crystals. I'm intrigued to see what might happen. What is most strange to Leo about this, though, is that the chores are doing themselves, like it's the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, not the Nicolas Cage movie with that guy who does the voice of How to Train Your Dragon, who's like, "Oh man, I'm the apprentice of the sorcerer." So,
yeah, this must be fascinating for Leo, the like juxtaposition of magic versus automation.
Oh.
Like, I don't know how much he has interacted with Hazel since she's kind of delved into magic stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's like her magic is not the same kind of like practical getting chores done kind of thing that Calypso seems to be like specialized in.
Yeah. I completely forgot that she had invisible servants. Was that a thing in the previous interaction as well?
Yes. I mean, at least right here, it's not vague if like spoons wash themselves, if this is her doing magic or if it is just the invisible servant.
A couple paragraphs later, they
they
talk about the invisible servant. So that's what I'm guessing it was. But yeah, when that came up, I was like, I didn't remember that being a thing. But it's talked about it in a way as if it probably was. And I've read that book once years ago. So Calypso's washing the dirt off her arms, and she is staring daggers at Leo. Leo decides that he has to be nice to her if he wants help from her, so he tries to level with her, saying that he understands why she would never want to see another demigod again after the Percy experience. And she says Percy was only the latest. Before him, it was Sir Francis Drake. Before him, it was Odysseus. And what's funny about the wording in particular is she calls Drake the pirate Drake or something like
that. Pirate Drake.
That pirate Drake, which I don't think was Rick trying to make sure we didn't get it confused with the bad Canadian rapper Drake. But I think that has aged quite nicely to very much not just say Drake, because there is a new, more famous, but given recent history, maybe more infamous Drake out there. She says that the gods send her the greatest heroes, and she can't help but to, and Leo finishes, fall in love with them, and then they leave you. And she confirms, saying that this is her curse, and she hoped that she would be rid of it after 3,000 years. And 3,000 years shocks Leo, but he does say, you look good for 3,000. Yeah. Pretty fun.
Keeping it tight.
Calypso says the worst thing of all is that the gods mock her by sending Leo. And that feels rude. That does not feel like the worst thing of all. I feel like you're being unnecessarily harsh.
The worst insult of all. Yes.
Feels so harsh. Leo agrees with me that it feels quite harsh. And as the narrator, I think makes a good point here. Quote, yeah, typical. If Jason were here, Calypso would fall all over him. She'd beg him to stay, but he'd be all noble about returning to his duties. And he'd leave Calypso brokenhearted. That magic raft would totally arrive for him. But Leo, he was the annoying guest she couldn't get rid of. She'd never fall for him because she was totally out of his league. Ah, there it is. League.
Right.
Not that he cared. She wasn't his type anyway. She was way too annoying and beautiful. And, well, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I like the particular phrasing of that, starting off with the too annoying and beautiful. Oh no, that wasn't supposed to be in the laundry list. No, never mind.
Like there is a difference between noticing that someone is beautiful and like having a crush on them. But I think he is like obsessing about the fact that she's beautiful a little bit and trying really hard not to.
Yeah, it's getting into the territory of more than just recognizing someone is objectively pretty. Leo says fine and tells Calypso that he'll leave her alone and build something himself to get off the island without her help. And then the book ends chapter 50 with the following. Quote, she shook her head sadly. You don't understand, do you? The gods are laughing at both of us. If the raft will not appear, that means they've closed Ogygia. You're stuck here the same as me. You can never leave. And I find this interesting, and this will be discussed a little bit in the next chapter. I find this interesting because Keone explicitly said, I'm bringing Leo to a place from which he cannot return. So it makes me wonder what she knows. Why did she have information?
I forgot about that part because I was going to ask, why is he here? Like Calypso said, you're obviously a mistake. Mm-hmm. Like it shouldn't be possible that someone arrives that breaks the pattern that's held for so long. So it was Keone specifically that wanted him to go here?
Yeah, I think she just knew this would be a good place to put him.
Okay.
Right. And it could just be, because I think later on there will be in chapter 51 a couple of reasons of like what could be going wrong. And I think she just like must know whatever the right answer is. She must know what it is. And I'm intrigued to know what it is. And I hope we get to learn what it is because I find it fascinating. So I have retitled chapter 50, I Can't Find the Rhythm, because of the Calypso, the dancing, and they're just not vibing. What have you retitled chapter 50?
What did I end up going with? I can't stay home, but I can't stay here.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here.
I don't want to go home, but I can't stay here.
Yeah. Now let's take our mid-roll break here at the House of Headlines. We'll talk about our upcoming shows in the Northeastern United States, new merchandise that's coming down the pipe, all these other fun things, and then we'll get into the beginning of chapter 51 to conclude this episode. Hello and welcome to the House of Headlines Auxiliary Shubio edition. I'm in the Auxiliary Shubio talking about updates with the podcast. There are lots of fun things to announce, so let's get into them. First up, if you're listening to this on Patreon, you probably already knew this, but I got this episode up quite early. I'm recording this mid-roll break on Saturday night, meaning there's a good chance I finish the episode Saturday night or early Sunday morning. That's pretty cool. That is a thing you get access to on Patreon. You definitely always get those ad-free episodes, but sometimes you get early release episodes if I am very productive during the week and I get my stuff done early. So that's one of the many perks. I also will be working on some new bonus content. We just put up a bonus episode, the second part of my coverage of Percy Jackson's Greek gods, which I have done at live shows in the past. And then there's director's commentaries coming. I'm trying to work on a new stream thing. We're going to do a new Q&A stream to close out June. So lots of fun stuff over at patreon.com/thenewestolympian. Patreon stuff aside, we still have those 3 live shows coming up in the Northeast. We're going to be in Brooklyn, New York on August 15th. We're going to be in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is basically Boston, on September 20th. And then Doylestown, Pennsylvania, we're going to be in Philly. We're going to be in Philly proper on the 27th of September. If you want to get tickets to all the shows, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/live. And if you want to know what we're covering, just follow us on Instagram at newestolympian. I will usually post like 2-ish weeks before the show with what chapters we're going to cover. In this case, I really just need to see how studio recordings have gone before I know what we're going to be covering. So just follow us there. Speaking of studio recordings and stuff, people may have noticed this. I mean, if you listened to last week's episode, you know this. Sherry said she's leaving. So for the context there, beyond the fact that she's going to law school, Sherry still will be back as a guest from time to time when time permits. And Sherry has done the editing work on this episode and then also for the next one. But then starting with 232, we're going to be moving over to someone who worked for me as an intern for a summer, Emma, who did a fantastic job. And I will be showing Emma the ropes of what Sherry did in the editing process. And then I will continue to do my production work that I do afterwards. So don't imagine there being any hiccups or changes with how the episode sounds itself. I think it's just going to be a matter of how much time it takes to do it. Sherry was very quick and efficient, and Emma's going to have a little bit of learning curve, so that's fine. And I'll pick up slack if there's ever the need to. So I don't think you're going to be hearing a drastic difference in audio quality. It's just might, take a little more time. I don't think episodes are going to be late. I think we're just going to work together. Ideally, you just get more of that same good TNO goodness that you're used to, and then you just get to have a new person in the editing chair, and we all get to learn more about Emma, which will be really fun. I may have some other folks jumping in to help with editing from time to time, especially if Emma's schedule gets a little complicated. But right now, the plan is to have Emma be the primary editor. We'll see how that all goes. I'm very excited about it. Emma's great. You guys are going to love Emma. I've mentioned the Patreon a couple times in this mid-roll break, so let's give a shout out to the folks who have joined most recently. Shout out to our newest demigod tier patron, Prometheus, I'm assuming the Titan. And I want to give a birthday shout out to Fran, aka Fran Lost in Hominem. I'm not normally one that does birthday shout outs and stuff, but if you're a patron, you can definitely get a birthday shout out. Just another reason to join the Patreon. So for everyone supporting, thank you so much for your support. May Demeter or whoever's doing seasons bless you that if you plan an outdoor picnic with your friends, that it doesn't rain. I've got one scheduled for Sunday, and we have already moved it twice because of weather and stuff. And now the forecast calls for a little bit of rain, but it's like a 20% chance. So please give me that 80%, Demeter, please. If you are all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck because I make a whole bunch of podcasts. I think you would enjoy those podcasts. And one podcast that I make that has a new episode coming soon. Sherry's working on the edit for it. New episode coming soon is Meddling Adults. Meddling Adults is a seasonal show. I host the show and guests compete to solve children's mysteries for charity. These mysteries come from classics like Encyclopedia Brown, Scooby-Doo, and more. And guests try to do their best job of solving them, and whoever does the better job earns money for a charity they're choosing. It's really fun. We're on season 5 right now. We've had some really big names and some really cool people on the show, some familiar voices from the TNO universe. So check it out. It's Meddling Adults wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go to meddlingadults.com. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally, so if you live in Nepal, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Nepali. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the News Olympian. All right, we'll do a chunk of chapter 51 before closing up shop here, but we're not going to be able to do the full thing because it's a very long chapter. So chapter 51 opens with, quote, "The first few days were the worst. So Leo is sleeping on drop cloths under the sky, and the only warmth that he has, because it does get cold at night, is the fire from the remains of Calypso's busted dinner table." And about this, Leo says, quote, "That cheered him up a little."
So this was funny, specifically because I've recently watched the movie Send Help.
Okay.
Did you ever see that?
No,
that
I have
was
not.
a recent movie with Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams.
Oh, okay.
Where like they get stuck on a
Deserted
island together. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I won't give anything more away, but it's a very different vibe than this, but it is still the like, she's a lot better at survivalism than he is. And he's kind of like looking on envious of like her beautiful shelter and his like tiny little leaf covering his head.
And he keeps walking around being like, why does everyone think I'm Logan Lerman? I'm a different guy. We're not the same person. I wasn't Percy Jackson. During the day, Leo circumnavigates the island looking for anything helpful and trying to send Iris messages. but he lets us know that he found nothing of interest, quote, unless you like beaches and endless sea in every direction. Leo, that sounds fantastic. It sounds absolutely great. Sign me up.
Yeah,
Please sign me
but
up.
not for him specifically.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He lets us know that the IMs are a failure because he doesn't have any drachma. He just has nuts and bolts, and those have not been working as sacrifices. He doesn't even have dreams, so he can't keep up with his friends. And I love him just completely embracing we all know what dreams are for at this point, right? We all understand the formula of these visions we see. It's just so we know what's going on and that the reader can get caught up to speed.
But yeah, I relate to this of just the hating being cut off of like, if I'm in a place and my phone is dead and it's like, sometimes it's nice if I like am in a state where I can just relax. But if like I know there's something happening somewhere else and I'm just not able to interface with that, it is terrifying.
I know exactly what you're saying with the phone thing. There have been a couple of times where I've gone to comedy shows here in New York where they make you put your phone in the little closed lock thing so you can't take pictures and video of a comedian working on their set. And both times I've gone, it's been in a time, where the baby's either going to sleep or still awake or whatever, and just not being able to know, is everything okay? Just like, it's a little unsettling. So both times I've told Kelly, if something's wrong, because you still hold the phone, it's just in the close thing, I will tell Kelly, text me 15 times so that I know it's not just, I don't know, a group text that I have with my dad and my uncle about what the Yankees are doing, or group text with a couple of my friends talking about basketball. If I get a couple of text messages, that could be something. But if I get 15 in a row, then I will leave and figure out what's going on with the baby. Thankfully, both times things are okay. But yeah, I totally get that whole, just once it's in the close thing, like I'm sure everything's going to be okay. But just for 90 minutes, I'm very worried that I'm going to open it to all caps text messages. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Leo, thinking about his friends and seeing what they're up to via dreams, he's not sure what he should hope for. A rescue mission? The completion of their quest? He thinks about his dream from before, where an evil sorceress told him to either jump off a cliff into the clouds or descend into a dark tunnel. He's guessing this is the clouds path and the other is the house of Hades, but the dream gave him a choice. Life did not give him a choice. What he hates most about being here is losing track of the days. Calypso isn't offering any help. She just says that time is difficult here. No matter what, Leo has resolve to leave the island. As the narrator, he says, quote, Calypso took pity on him in some ways. She sent her invisible servants to leave bowls of stew and goblets of lemonade at the edge of the garden. She even sent him a few sets of clothes, simple, undyed cotton trousers and shirts that she must have made on her loom. They fitted him so well, Leo wondered how she'd gotten his measurements. Maybe she just used her generic pattern for scrawny male. Oof. Leo, do some push-ups. You got nothing else to do, apparently. He was happy to have new clothes since his other ones were smelly and burnt. He does let us know, usually I can make sure my clothes don't burn, but sometimes if I get distracted, they burn. Don't think less of me. But he can tell that Calypso doesn't really want to see him, despite gifts like this. The confirmation is that he poked his head into the cave one time, and she freaked out and threw pots at his head. So, doesn't seem like they're on great terms. Narrator Leo says, quote, yeah, she was definitely Team Leo. So Leo makes a more permanent camp closer to Calypso, but not too close. He makes a lean-to, which I had to Google to see what it was, but it's kind of that open tent-ish sort of deal. It's a very apt name. It does look like it's leaning over. Yep. He makes a fire pit. He makes a bench and a work table. He works at fixing the sphere. He makes a compass, but it just spins around and around, so it doesn't actually do anything. And then Leo thinks about the Odysseus astrolabe. And I was thinking, oh, nice. Perfect. But then he says it's back on the ship with Buford the Wonder Table. But then he remembers the twins saying that the astrolabe needed a missing crystal. And I remembered that the description before talked about crystals being in her cave. And my guess here is that somehow over the course of this endeavor, he's going to obtain a crystal and he will bring that crystal back and then put it into the astrolabe. And that astrolabe will help them with something. I don't know if it will help them get to Epirus. It will help them get through. I just feel like he's going to get a crystal out of this endeavor and he's going to put it in the astrolabe and then it's going to start working.
That's kind of nice. It's like, that isn't the answer to this problem, but it at least is helpful to like, okay, but if I get off this island, then I will have made progress on another quest.
Right. Yeah, it's like when in an adventure game of sorts with loot, you get some sort of thing and you're like, this is cool, but I can't use it yet. And then later in the game, you're like, that thing from before, I can use it. I can make the ice staff in Baldur's Gate 3. So he wonders why Keone didn't just kill him instead. And I think it's funny because in the previous chapters, Piper asked Keone, why don't you just kill us instead? Leo is thinking about this. Why not just kill me? And then he starts thinking, maybe she wanted me to be in this strange limbo forever. Maybe she knew that the gods weren't paying attention to Ogygia. Maybe she knew that the magic of the island wasn't working. See also the raft. Narrator Leo then says, quote, or maybe the magic of this place was working just fine. The gods had punished Calypso by sending her buff, courageous dudes who left as soon as she fell for them. Maybe that was the problem. Calypso would never fall for Leo. She wanted him to leave, so they were stuck in a vicious circle. If that was Keone's plan, wow, major league devious.
That's rough. Yeah.
Like that could be pretty good. I'm very intrigued to see what Keone knew, what she didn't know. How evil was this?
And at this point, I was wondering, like, did the gods make do with their promise and end her curse, but forget to tell her, or like actually get her off of the island?
Yeah,
because in theory, it shouldn't be possible for him to show up because he breaks the pattern.
Right.
Is that just because they're distracted and their magic is weaker, or they just like kind of forgot about her and left her there?
I mean, it could 100% be that. I think it could be that in conjunction with what we had earlier in the Heroes of Olympus series with just the gods are not keeping up on their promises.
They're distracted, yeah.
So I think it could be a mixture of the two. Maybe they were getting to all the different things and that was a little lower. Okay, we've set up the minor god cabins at Camp Half-Blood. Check that off the to-do list. Now we can get to some of our lower task items, not the urgent priority, but the high and medium priorities. Oh yeah, right, Calypso. And then blah, 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 my aspects, blah, 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 and then they didn't actually get to it. So then the book says the following quote, then one morning he made a discovery and things got even more complicated. So Leo is walking the hills. He is following this little brook that runs between some cedar trees. And he says that he likes this area. It's the only place where he can't see the ocean. So he can pretend that he's not marooned on a deserted island. And being in the shade of the trees also feels a little bit like Camp Half-Blood to him. And when he said that, I did think, yeah, there's been so many different Leo stories where he's going through the forest and stuff, all of the things getting Festus and all, like it did very much feel like of all the places in Camp Half-Blood, obviously aside from Bunker 9 and Cabin 9, being in the forest does feel like a Leo vibe. So
yeah, I get
that rang true to me. And then he jumps over the creek, and when he does, instead of landing on squishy ground, he hits something hard and it makes a metallic clang, which of course for Leo is fantastic. He digs through and he sees some bronze and he is very excited, absolutely elated, doesn't know why it's here, but he is thinking, okay, Hephaestus is tossing broken parts out of his workshop, so maybe that was the thing. This happened with Narcissus, where the big reflecting thing that Narcissus was looking at in the water was a discarded piece from Hephaestus. So Leo's thinking maybe it could be that, but then he's also thinking, what are the odds that it would land in Ogygia? Maybe this is intentional. I don't know. He then is able to find some wires, some gears, a piston that could work, and quote, several hammered sheets of celestial bronze, the smallest the size of a drink coaster, the largest the size of a war shield. It wasn't a lot, not compared to Bunker 9 or even to his supplies aboard the Argo 2, but it was more than sand and rocks. So because it was so specific, I was thinking, and Leo's thinking, that this is a gift from Hephaestus. And given that every single member of the seven, or at least a lot of them, have had their godly parent meddle and help them out just a little bit along the way,
nudge.
I think that this is also that. We had the Aphrodite thing before, and I think that this could be Leo's
And not
Hephaestus
only
thing.
that, but Hephaestus was the one that visited Percy on Ogygia.
Yes.
The first time.
Right.
So of all the gods, he's the most likely to have taken an interest in Calypso's well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe this is kind of a Hail Mary, like 2 birds with 1 stone, try to let these kids figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And this is going to be where we stop. So I don't know if we get confirmation later in this chapter, but I am on team. This is an intentional thing from Hephaestus, much like we had Pluto and Hazel. I think that the godly parents are starting to help our friends out. We had the blessing of Ares for Frank. Like, I think more and more of the parents are helping out their kids.
Yeah, they're like seeing maybe that it's not as much of a lost cause the more successes the kids have.
Yeah.
So they're just putting their chips behind that.
They're trying to buy in on their 7 stock before it skyrockets too high. But then the book has this line, which we will end, and we'll pick it up next time with Dr. Stephen Parr. It says, quote, "Dad, if you sent this here for me, thanks. If you didn't, well, thanks anyway." And then narrator Leo says, quote, "He gathered up his treasure trove and lugged it back to his campsite. After that, the days passed more quickly and with a lot more noise." So we'll see how it goes from there, but I think that's a good stopping point for this episode. But Michael, thank you so much for joining. This was so fun. So fun to do it in person too.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to see the backup Shubio.
Yeah, the Shubio just in non-optimal form with the door open and me moving things around so that we can look each other in the eye, because it does work that normally I'm just facing a wall. Okay. But it's been an honor. Usually this is where people promote stuff and all that. Do you want to promote anything? Or
I did want to answer the question that we didn't
Oh my God,
ask.
I completely forgot at the top.
We could insert this at the top if you prefer.
Or we can do it here, whatever way. Yes, you are on the show enough times that now we got to do the what would Cabin Michael look like? So what would Cabin Michael look like?
Yes. For aesthetics, I was thinking like a Hollywood Regency style, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
That's like very gilded and kind of an Art Deco style, but with like very plush furniture, like very elegant but comfortable.
I like that.
And I think that for functionality, that it's not a cabin anyone lives in. That it's
it's like the Artemis.
Yeah, similar to the childless gods, but it is, instead of just being like vacant, which is like Hera is just like, this is my house and you will worship me from afar. That it's more of like an annex to the big house, that it's a student center.
It's a third space.
Yes, that it is maybe even like, okay, so I was thinking there's 2 main areas. The front is like a cafe around a stage for like poetry readings and karaoke.
And live podcast performances.
And a lot of those PowerPoint parties where you get your friends together to share your special interests.
Do love that. Yes, I'm loving that that's becoming more of a thing.
Yes. And then kind of a back room that's more of a quiet area, like a sensory friendly space just to read and recover from the burnout of being
This is great.
a neurodivergent demigod.
I love it. And I know that everyone in the comments is going to be like, this is the greatest cabin ever. Sign me up. Please, please, please. That's fantastic. Perfect. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, as we see what Leo does with this newfound treasure trove of metal, until then, I'll see you later. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you just cannot get enough of the show, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First off, you can find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Instagram and other places, but Instagram's where we're most active. You can also support the show on Patreon. thenewestolympian.com/Patreon is where you get access to bonus episodes, director's commentaries, behind-the-scenes looks in the pod, as well as our Discord. It's a phenomenal community with lots of wonderful TNO listeners. You can get access to that. The TNO Patreon is also where you can get live show replays and other digital goodies. But you can also go to thenewestolympian.com/merch to rep the show with some physical and digital merch as well. Speaking of the Patreon, let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons in the Olympic court level of the Patreon. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkoff, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Mick Walters, Grace, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Terry Rothfuzz, Certified Ghost King's emotional support friend, Lee Hartley, Marco Redhouse, and Raccoon Moon 149. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth is huge, goes a long way for podcast growth. So you could talk about the show with someone directly, you could post about it on social media, you could leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All these things really do help. I appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be joined by Dr. Stephen Parr to break down the rest of Chapter 51 and then all of Chapter 52 of the House of Hades. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, Asa Marmick. So, as mentioned a couple times across the podcast, my beloved New York Knicks won the 2026 NBA championship. I've ordered a decent amount of championship merchandise. One of the things I have here is a hat that I'm deciding if I'm going to keep it or not, because I've ordered it in a couple of different colors and the other colors have not come in. So I've got the box here for it. That's the box noise. It's in this like little plastic bag to keep it safe, because if I return it, I want it to be in perfect condition. And then I'm going to just kind of like tap my fingers on the box near the microphone. That's kind of fun stuff that lives in the auxiliary shoe. Thank you so much for listening.